Welcome. So I'm going to be doing a few political videos, but there's one thing in particular that I just wanted to talk about. I heard Joe Biden speaking yesterday in Kenosha, and he brought up this lie that has been told ever since 2017. The fine people on both sides.
And the President of the United States was asked, what do you think? And he said, quote, something no president's ever said. He said, there are very fine people on both sides.
And when he said it, I was just like, you know what? I'm done. So I want to lay everything out and let you come to your own decision. So the first clip that I want to bring up is Chris Cuomo speaking on it, and he has two other guests with him. The guest is going to address how he stopped the video just short of a very important phrase. Like, where you stopped it is very important in his speech. And it's vile, it's evil what they do, but they do it anyways. And then they do it with a straight face, which I think is absolutely wicked. But I mean, it's the spirit that they're working in. So let's go ahead and roll that clip.
The president said the right thing during Charlottesville.
Well, I'll tell you, the main reason is because I can read, and I have read the transcript. So rather than believing in a fairy tale narrative, if we deal in the actual evidence, and in this case, that is a transcript of what was said, it's impossible to determine anything except for his intention, which was to totally condemn racism. And I have to say, Chris, the way you edited that segment that you showed just before this was appallingly misleading because you cut the quote off at a critical juncture. If you continue the quote you were showing, and I want to quote directly here because I want to be extremely precise, he said, you had people in that group who were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name. He then continued in the next answer, I am not talking about the neo-Nazis and white nationalists because they should be condemned totally, end quote. So he was unequivocal that he was not talking about racists or neo-Nazis, but the way you deceptively edited what
There's
you
nothing-
just showed
there's nothing
made it
deceptive
look
about
as
it.
though he was.
All right, so Rob,
Now he knows that what he did was wrong, but it doesn't matter. Let's just keep the conversation moving. So let me play you the entire speech, uninterrupted, what the president said.
They showed up in Charlottesville to protest.
Excuse me, they didn't put themselves down as the other. And you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
Robert E. Lee are not the same.
Well, no, George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down, excuse me, are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him? Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now we're going to take down his statue. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers, and you see them come with the black outfits and with the helmets and with the baseball bats. You had a lot of bad people in the other group too.
So you had people that were there with a permit that was protesting the taking down of the Robert E. Lee statue. And then you had those that came protesting against the taking down of the Robert E. Lee statue. In between these people, these fine people, were the troublemakers. You had the white nationalists and the neo-Nazis that showed up on the right, but then you also had Antifa that showed up on the left. And the fight broke out between those two groups. But the fine people that he's talking about are those that actually showed up to protest peacefully. And he talks about Antifa. He says those that showed up with the all black and the helmet and the bats, and he doesn't know to actually label them Antifa, but those were the troublemakers. You had the troublemakers on both sides. Now, did they know this? Of course they did. They even spoke about it. So I'm going to play you another clip where they are talking about what the president said, and they, out of their own mouths, said, well, now we know this isn't what he meant, but...
Trump, back in 2017, saying he had said today that he answered the question perfectly. Let's take a listen.
Neo-Nazis started this. They showed up in Charlottesville. They showed up in Charlottesville to protest.
Excuse me, they didn't put themselves down as neo, and you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Now, elsewhere in those remarks, the president did condemn neo-Nazis and white supremacists. So he's not saying that the neo-Nazis and white supremacists are very fine people, but he is saying people protesting alongside those neo-Nazis and white supremacists are very fine people. Who are they?
This is just one of the many lies and the manipulation that the media has done throughout his presidency. They are literally the enemy of the people. They are the reason for the racial divide that has taken place in our country. It's lies like this that they continue to perpetuate with a straight face that is impacting and influencing the minds of Americans. So I laid out all the information. You can come to your own conclusion, but ultimately, I pray that you've been blessed in your hearing and informed. So, yeah, that's all. Grace and peace, family.